Hello dear learners, welcome back to your English class. In today's video, we will be covering one beautiful poem by the poet Walt Whitman, and the title of the poem is When I Heard the Learned Astronomer. Before we start the reading of the poem, let's read about the poet first. Walt Whitman, he was an American poet from the 19th century and was born on Long Island and brought up in Brooklyn. He did not receive formal education and spent a lot of time in libraries teaching himself. He worked as a teacher, printer, reporter, and editor. He was a prominent revolutionary poet in America. Apart from publishing his own work, he was also a nurse during American Civil War. Some remarkable works by Whitman. Song of Myself has been Whitman's most remarkable poem. The poem expresses his love for the world he belongs to and all the elements of it. His patriotism is expressed through various extremely well-acclaimed poems. What is the meaning of patriotism? It means immense love for one's own country and the motherland. His poem, O Captain, My Captain, was dedicated to Abraham Lincoln's death, along with elegy to their 16th president called When Lilac Last in Dooryard Bloom. So, what is the meaning of elegy? It's a sad poem written in the memory of a dead one or the departed one, and that can be written after the death of a person, so that is known as elegy. I Hear America Singing also displays his love for his country. As you can see in the picture, in 1948, in order to honor Walt Whitman for his remarkable contribution in the literature, the USA government introduced a stamp by his picture in year 1948. So these were some remarkable works by Whitman. We have read about the poet. Now let's start the reading of the poem. When I Heard the Learned Astronomer. Once the poet was attending an astronomy lecture by a great learned astronomer. As you can see in the picture, the astronomer is delivering his lecture to the audience. When the proofs, the figures were ranked in columns before me, and when the astronomer was delivering his lecture, he wrote some theories, some mathematical equations, he made some diagrams, some figures, some graphs on the board in order to support his lecture or the explanation, to make his explanation more interesting and informative so that the audience could understand the things in a better manner. So he mentioned or he wrote many things on the board. When I was shown the charts and the diagrams to add, divide and measure them. Now the poet was sitting there and he was looking at the board. He was trying to understand the things mentioned on the board, be it was the charts or the diagrams or the graphs or the figures or the equations which were written on the board. You can see the mental frame of work is being shown in this picture, that those things which were mentioned on the board, they were revolving in the brain of the or the mind of the poet. When I sitting heard, and he was sitting quietly there and attending the lecture. The astronomer, where he lectured with much applause in the lecture room. And when the astronomer completed his lecture, when he delivered his lecture, the audience enjoyed the lecture. They applauded in the, they applauded for the astronomer for delivering a wonderful lecture. In order to honor him, in order to respect him, the audience gave a big round of applause. How soon unaccountable. I became tired and sick. But the poet, who was also attending the lecture, he did not find astronomers' lectures about the stars. He found it so boring and uninteresting that he became very tired and sick. He felt like leaving from there. Okay, he lost his interest or charm in astronomer's lecture. The reason behind that? Because the poet believes that merely showing or explaining the data or the charts or the diagrams or the figures on the board is not the real way of teaching. It was not the real way of learning, or it was not the real way of teaching an experience thing. The poet believed that we can understand nature only, that if we want to understand the beauties of the nature and the wonders of the nature, we need to experience them ourselves. We need to experience the things ourselves. So that's why the poet lost his interest and charm in the lecture, and he felt very tired and sick. He felt the lecture quite boring and uninteresting, and he decided to leave the place. Till rising and gliding out, I wandered off by myself. And when the poet left the place, he came outside to experience a stroll. Stroll means a walk. He decides to enjoy a walk in the nature. As you can see now, he is enjoying a stroll or an evening walk in the lap of nature. In the mystical moist night air, as you can see, this is the evening time. The sky is studded with twinkling stars. The poet is climbing the hills because he wants to spend some time in the lap of nature. The astronomer was teaching about the stars, and that was not, according to the poet, that was not the right way to teach the things. If you want to experience the thing, you need to experience them in reality. So that's why he decides to climb the hill. Mystical means, it means the feeling of awe and inspiration. So he was mesmerized, he was fascinated, or he was spellbound by the beauty of the nature, and that's why he wants to experience the nature by himself, merely by listening to someone's lecture. And from time to time, and then the poet relaxed himself. He removed his shoes, he removed his socks, he folded his trousers, and he kept his bag aside. He was in a cheerful or placid mood, and in that mood he wants to enjoy the beauty of the nature. Looked up in perfect silence at the star, and there was utter silence all around. The moonlight was scattered everywhere. The stars were twinkling in the sky. He lied down under the tree and kept on gazing at the sky, which was beautified by the twinkling stars, or which was studded with the shining stars. So according to the poet, the real way of enjoying the thing is to experience them themselves. Only then we can understand the beauties of the nature or the wonders of the nature. So in the poem, the poet Walt Whitman, he took an example of the astronomer, and he wanted to emphasize on the fact that there is a difference between actual learning and experimental learning. And practical learning or practical knowledge is more important than the theoretical knowledge. This is the reason that our curriculum is very well designed and advanced. ABL means activity based learning, and PBL means project based learning. ABL and PBL both are the vital components of our curriculum, along with the real life teaching or the educational excursion, which play a vital role in supporting the lifelong learning process of the child, which is required for the holistic development. So this is the reason that the poet wants to emphasize that practical knowledge is more important than the theoretical knowledge. And if we want to teach the students the things, we need to teach them with the practical methods, with the experimental methods, with some activities or with some projects. So this is the theme of the poem, that we need to understand the things practically rather than just mugging up the data or just drawing the figures or the graphs. So I hope you would have enjoyed this poem. When I heard the Learned Astronomer by Walt Whitman. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next part. Have a great day ahead.